Today we will be taking through 9th chapter. This is one of the important chapter in Bhagavad Gita. To take us through this chapter, we have with us Shivalabh Das. Most of you know Shivalabh Das ji. He has already taken 2 sessions. For the first time joiners, I will give a quick intro. Shivalabh Das is practicing Bhakti Yoga for more than 35 years. Not only he is practicing, but also helping many people to take up this process. And he is an amazing singer, musician, and also an expert teacher. And professionally, he holds a position of vice president in an airline. Are you ready to listen to the most confidential knowledge? We welcome Shivalabh Das ji. Over to you.
So, Hare Krishna, thank you all for coming back. We had a 1-week session, 6 days last week. Today, we start the second session of 6 days, and I'm very happy that most of you have come back to be here with us. Today's chapter, as Jai Govinji said, is one of the most important chapters of Bhagavad Gita. I think earlier I told all of you that Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. The 18 chapters are broadly split into three parts of 6 chapters each. So let me give you a quick overview about how that is there. I will also take you through a quick preview of the last few shlokas of the 8th chapter, get on and bring the theme through to where we are in the 9th chapter. And before we start, let's pray for blessings so that this session is useful to you all and to me. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I was talking about the various divisions of Bhagavad Gita. Now we have 3 into 6 chapters as 3 divisions of Bhagavad Gita. And the first 6 chapters, Lord Shri Krishna covers Karma Yoga, which then leads to Bhakti Yoga. Yoginam api sarvesham madgathe nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo mataha was the last shloka of chapter number 6. Out of all the yogis that I have talked to you about, a Bhakti yogi is supreme. And we are now in the middle, the crux of Bhagavad Gita, where the Lord has fit in this wonderful Bhakti yoga as to how we can, through Bhakti, achieve the Supreme Lord between chapters 7 to 12. And then the final 3 chapters further talk about Jnana, but leading towards Bhakti yoga. Then there are so many other chapters. So the Bhakti is a thread that is coming right through from the beginning to the end, but very, very prominent between the 7th and the 12th chapter. And now we are all here right in the middle of the 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. And that is the 9th chapter. The 9th chapter, the 9th and 10th, the Lord summarizes, but 9th chapter has got a very, very unique title given by the Lord, and Srila Prabhupada says it is called the most confidential knowledge. Before we come to that, I wanted to say in chapter 8, Arjuna asked various questions. And he says, please, how does Ananya Bhakti happen? Ananya Bhakti means without looking here and there, surrendering only to Krishna. Anya means others, Ananya means without here and there. Idhar udhar bhatakte bina. Just worship the Lord, he says. And how a devotee surpasses the path of light and darkness. Now Krishna will explain how to become such a devotee. How to become such a devotee who will ultimately attain the supreme. Arjuna's main question was, how can I attain the Lord? So chapter 8 concludes that bhakti is the best form of yoga. Chapter 9 supplies the specific knowledge required for performing that most confidential yoga. Chapter 7 and chapter 9 are pretty identical. There are various themes covered in both chapter 7 and chapter 9. So, if you really see, both these chapters have various aspects that are covered that are common. Hearing from Krishna, relationship between Krishna and the material nature, Krishna's potency manifested within matter, worship of demigods were also covered in chapter 7, and that was contrasted with worship of Krishna. Again, whenever the Lord is talking about worship of other devatas, upadevatas, he immediately brings about to say in comparison about worshipping him. And then he also compares with impersonalistic knowledge contrasted to those who are devotees of Krishna, the personalistic way of worship. So both these are common in both these chapters, right? Now, but what is very unique here? In this particular chapter, just to give you a background, the second and the third chapters of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Guhya. Guhya means secret, confidential. He says, because he's giving the knowledge of the spirit soul, jiva, and he gives the concept of body. Okay? And he says how the understanding of that is useful for liberation. If somebody understands what is the jiva and who am I, how I'm not this body, that itself is a way towards liberation. But he terms it confidential. But the seventh and eighth chapters, Krishna say, I'm giving you more confidential information. And in this, Krishna gives knowledge, which brings about enlightenment about Krishna consciousness and about the Supreme Lord. And now, the ninth chapter, Krishna says this is the most confidential. Guhya tamam. He said Guhya, then he said Guhya Tara, and now he says Guhya tamam. Guhya tamam means the ultimate knowledge I'm going to give you now. Why? Krishna says, because it deals with pure, unalloyed devotion. Kevala bhakti, as they say. And it explains the glories of the Lord and his devotees. So this is called the most confidential knowledge. All of you, ladies and gentlemen, today we are here to learn about the most confidential lesson. So at the end of the session today, you should walk out with what is this confidential knowledge and how I can apply it in my day-to-day life in Krishna, in the progression towards Lord Shri Krishna. All right. So the various chapters, the various shlokas in this particular chapter, the whole chapter is called King. The acronyms that we've been using every day is called King. K is knowledge. And actually, this chapter says king of knowledge. Krishna uses Raja Vidya. This is the king of knowledge. And he says, hearing about Krishna. And he gives what are the qualifications and what are the disqualifications. Both are being given here. While this is most confidential, Krishna is not only talking about how to worship him, how to become a devotee. He also says how many people worship in various other ways and get lost. They come back into the cycle of repeated birth and death. Even that is being brought about here. So the first theme in the first three shlokas itself, he summarizes all of these things. What are the qualifications? What are the disqualifications? And how this is the most confidential information. In the next 7 verses, Krishna talks about inconceivable relationships. Now we have relationships with so many people. We have relationships with our father, our mother, brother, sister, various other relationships that we have. And Krishna says, what is the relationship and what is my relationship with everyone? So he says, he gives the Aishwarya Jnana. How Aishwarya means the opulence of Krishna and how to be able to understand how Krishna is all encompassing. All our relationships are due to Krishna. And so he also gives us the relationship with the material world. And then the next section C, he says, who are the non-worshippers and the worshippers? And he differentiates between those who do not worship Krishna and what do they lose out in life. So it's very important for us to understand how, if we do not take up to worshipping the Lord, what do we miss out in life? Ignorance is not bliss, right? So we will have to really understand who the Lord is. So it differentiates between those who are worshippers and the non-worshippers. And then he also gives this particular overview in the next 9 shlokas there about Krishna as a supreme object of worship and how he is ultimately to be worshipped. And then the last section, E, is talking about glories of bhakti and how bhakti is ultimate. Now, this is the most confidential. So, those 5, 6 shlokas there, 8 shlokas are going to give about the glories of directly worshipping Krishna. So, this is the most confidential knowledge. Let's all fasten our seatbelts to get on to this chapter, which is the most confidential knowledge about that Krishna is giving to us, and why he is giving to us is what you will see in the first section. In this section, where he talks about knowledge, he says, this knowledge is only given to those who are non envious, and only they are allowed to hear the confidential knowledge about Krishna. And faithlessness forces one to birth and death. If you do not have faith in what Krishna is saying, then it degrades you to a repeated cycle of birth and death. So this is very important. Therefore, we need to watch what what are the positives that we get, and if we do not understand and if we do not follow, what happens. Now, very rarely does this sort of a donkey happens, but the fact is, we born as human beings, we should know what is right and what is wrong. Ignorance is bliss is not right. We as human beings, we ahar nidra bhayam maitunam, all animals do it, but what are we special about? We have to know, who am I, who is God, what is my relationship with him. So that he gives you an overview. And he says this is called the king of knowledge. So in the first shloka, Krishna says, Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Idam tute guhyatamam prakshyami anasuyave jnanam vijnana sahitam yajnatva mokshase ashubhat. Idam tute guhyatamam. I am going to give you the most confidential knowledge. Pravakshyami anasuyave. And you will only be able to understand it if you are non-envious. So, what is the qualification to receive it? Anasuyave, free from envy. Who are we going to envy here? My neighbors? My family? The envy here is of Krishna. Krishna is called the controller. Bhoktaram Yajnatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. But we think I am the Maheshwara. I have this much money, I have $1 million, I have a house here, I have a house there, I have this much vasta to the government people. So we think I'm the controller. But many people also envy the position of God. They do not understand who I am and how I am such a small personality. Just imagine I'm one small speck in a vast number of population in this country. And this country is just a small country in the whole universe, in the whole world. Just imagine the millions and millions and billions of people who are there around the world, but we think I am important. Me and mine is our criteria. We always envy Krishna. But Krishna says, I give to only those who do not envy me. Anasuyave. Asuya means envy. Okay? Then he says, how do you get it? Through proper hearing. Tachrunu. Hear. Then what are the benefits? The benefits are you'll get relief from all the miseries of material existence. And there are two main benefits of getting this. One is, he says, Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam Yajnatva Mokshase Ashubhat. Pravakshyami Anasuyave Jnana Vijnanatam. Spiritual advancement. First is you get spiritual advancement, and second, you get freedom from material miseries. So, this is why this chapter is very important for all of us. Let us all hear with attention. The next verse, Krishna says, Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam, Pavitram idam uttamam, Pratyaksha avaghamam dharmyam, Susukam kartum avyayam. Raja Vidya, this knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, pratyaksha avagamam, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, avyayam, and it is joyfully performed. Sukham. Sukham means very easily, very blissfully. Susukham, with ease. But what does he say here? Rajavidya, the king of knowledge. Raja Guhyam. Guhya means secret. And he says, this is the topmost of all secrets. Now hear from me. And this is the purest of knowledge. And so Krishna says, and why? Because it is the essence of all the doctrines and philosophies explained before. Out of all the scriptures, Sarvopanishado Ghavo Dogda Gopalanandanaha, out of all the Vedic scriptures, Krishna says Bhagavad Gita is the Sharamsa. And from the Bhagavad Gita, the out of the 18 chapters, the mid 6 chapters, and within the mid, the 9th chapter, and that 9th chapter, the Lord says, I'm going to tell you about how I and my devotees deal with each other. And so all the philosophies, this gives a synopsis. And Rajaguhya, the most confidential knowledge. And why? This talks about the eternal activities of the soul and gives us all the positive information. Confidential knowledge explains spirit, soul, and imperishable, immutable. Okay? But that does not give positive information about the soul. Modern education system, unfortunately, we think gives vidya. We send all our children to schools and universities spending so much of money, but the basic knowledge of vidya is not given. So we have a great responsibility, ladies and gentlemen, to give this Bhagavad Gita to everybody. This Bhagavad Gita is the only one that can give this king of knowledge. So it is considered Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam. So this is ultimate. And again, coming back, it says Pavitram Rajavidya Rajagukyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam. Pavitram means is to purify. It purifies us from all sinful reactions. And what does that purification mean? It purifies us completely if we engage in Krishna consciousness. And this is Uttamam. It is topmost. And from this, you'll be able to transcend all the material modes and you'll be able to purify yourself and reach the Supreme Lord. Now, there are various stages of Papa, and he says Pavitram means you're able to get rid of all the seeds, the 4 ways of sins that we commit and we are bound. One is Bija. By avidya, by improper knowledge, we get sinful desires. If you have good knowledge, then you think good, right? When you don't have good knowledge, then you are having sinful desires. When you have sinful desires, it slowly impels you to do something wrong. That's called papa. And then for that, you get sinful actions. The sinful actions are unmanifest sometimes. It happens after many births. There's a very detailed science. But then some are happening now. Now, if you are suffering, it is because of kuta. It is because of sinful disposition, which is manifest. Sometimes it is all hiding somewhere in the seed form, but then occasionally, okay, it is hiding in the seed form, but then occasionally or sometimes it hits us, and then that leads us to suffering. So this is the entire cycle. The 4 main bija, papa, aprarabdha, and kutam are the stages by which, if we follow this chapter, we will be purified and we will get to understand the uttamam. Then again, he says, how do we get it? We get it by direct perception, pratyaksha direct perception of, as soon as when you start eating, immediately hunger dissipates, right? Slowly and steadily, and your energy comes back in. Similarly, as you start having more and more of this vitamin dose of Bhagavad Gita or the Hare Krishna or the Satsanga, you will be able to gradually start to experience. Association of devotees is very important here. And the example, as I said, you get purified quickly. One feels transcendental pleasure and gets purified quickly. So we need to, by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra without offense. Devotional service is very, very powerful. And the qualification is that we become enlightened irrespective of any pre-qualification. Do you need pre-qualification for this? No. In any form of life, whatever be your caste, whichever part of the world you belong to, are you a young boy, infant, young boy, old man, just at the deathbed? For everybody, this is applicable. So everybody is qualified to receive this secret knowledge. So are we ready? Now, Krishna further says, Dharmyam. This gives the perfection of religion. I'm not going to cover some parts of this slide. Just look at this major thought. He said, this is perfection of religion. And He says, just by following this, you get all the benefit. Narada Muni, just by getting association, Narada achieved everything. He became Narada only because he got the association of sages in the forest. Susukam, easy and blissful, very simple. Just chant, eat Krishna Prasadam, dance, read some Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. Very simple. And Krishna says how easy you can make it by offering. The Sanat Kumaras, you may not all know who the Sanat Kumaras are. These were the sons of Brahma, and these Sanat Kumaras were very impersonalist, but merely because they got the taste of Tulasi or the fragrance of Tulasi, they got bhakti. So it is as simple, it is easily receivable. If you all eat Krishna Prasadam, you start to get bhakti. And so, even if you offer just merely a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, Krishna will say later in the same chapter, it's as easily performed. So this is not a very difficult process. Do not worry that you have to do tapasya like Hiranyakashipu did. Easy process. And avyayam, it is eternal and everlasting. So these are the main points that he says. Then he says, Ashraddha Dhanaha. Now he is saying the others who do not follow. Ashraddha Dhanaha, jinka shraddha nahi hai. Ashraddha Dhanaha Purusha, Dharmasyasya Parantapa, Aprapya Mam Nivartante, Mrityu Samsara Vartamani. Those who do not have faith in this process about the Lord, Dharmasyasya Parantapa. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. Faith. Faith is very, very important. This is the first lesson we have to learn here. Faith in the Lord, faith in Krishna, faith in our relationships. If you don't have faith, you can't do anything. So, the beginning of all spiritual progress is to have faith. So, first have faith. When you go to maths class, the teacher says, X, assume X is equal to Y. So have faith that the teacher is going to lead you to why X is equal to Y. Assume X is equal to Y. Sometimes whether you know scriptures or not, when the Lord is telling you, assume, have that basic faith. From that basic faith, Adhav Shraddha, he says, it begins with basic faith that, oh, the Lord is there. Bhagavad Gita is there. And as you study and as you keep on doing, as you progress, you will get nishtha, you will get firm faith. And then you will get gradually bhakti. So, how is faith described? Faith is first created by association of devotees. It's first you have to get association. And then there are three levels. The lowest level of faith is to know that is to not to have any knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. You don't know anything about Bhagavad Gita, anything about scriptures. And though you may perform some activities, you know Krishna as the Lord, but still you are very fickle. You can fall down. As soon as somebody confuses you, you may fall down. So that is the lowest of the rung, but it is still a positive rung. Second level of faith is where you have firm faith. You're advanced in devotional scriptures and you're trying to follow association and simplicity. Firm faith is when you're well versed with devotional scriptures. That time there is no chance for fall down. So we may all be in the second level, but we all have to strive to get to this first level. And that is the real way by which we can be fixed. And if you're fixed in faith, then maybe this is the last birth for you. You may never have to appear again. So the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, after reading Bhagavad Gita, we should know how to engage all our capabilities in service of the Lord with full faith. So we have to learn how to have faith. And Krishna says here, if you do not have faith, then you can't attain Krishna. You can't attain anything if you do not have faith. Every day, if you think, oh, what will happen? Will I lose my job? Oh, is my child okay? Is my son doing this okay or not? Is my employee doing this or not? You don't have faith on people, you lose everything. There has to be an important factor, and that faith is an important factor that the Lord brings in here. So, Shraddha is the confidence, okay? And the confidence is not only that Krishna is God, that once you serve Krishna, you don't have to serve anybody. Yatha taror mula nishechanena. Like how, if you have to water the tree and all the branches and you need nice fruits and flowers, you have to water at the root. Similarly, when you water at the root, who is Krishna, then all the creation of Krishna extended, Pitahamas, our father, mother, our village, our country, our entire society, gods, demigods, everybody is satisfied if we pour water at the tree, at the root of the tree. So this is a very important shloka that we all need to understand. So many times we start pouring water here and there. We want to go to different devas for different purposes. Or, oh, somebody says you go to this Babaji, you get that, you go to that Babaji, you get that, and you get butkaud here and there. So Krishna says, what are the root? This is very important for us to understand. And there are more about it later. In the next 7 shlokas, Krishna gives us Aishwarya Jnana. Aishwarya means those opulences. And he says, what is the relationship with the material world? Krishna says, I pervade, I create, I annihilate, means I destroy the entire cosmos through this material energy. So through his material energy, Krishna's material energy. And although Krishna is the supreme director, the material world nevertheless moves independently, and Krishna thus remains neutral and detached. So we will understand a lot of management lessons here. So let's get to this particular section also as to how we all have different activities, but we end up taking control, everything. I often have this fault in me. I give a task to somebody, but then I end up doing it. No, we all know the Lord has now delegated it. He's moved on and he's aloof from all his creation. Let us understand. I will move a little fast on this particular chapter. I may not read every aspect of these few slides, but Krishna says, A, he pervades the entire universe. So he says, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina. Avyakta murtina. How do I pervade the entire universe? Avyakta murtina. You can't see me in everything, right? We can't see, we can't see Krishna in every one of us. We can't see Krishna in everywhere. But gradually we need to understand that Krishna is present everywhere. That is the devotional understanding. And we cannot see it with our gross material senses. We have to follow what Krishna says and abide by it. And it can be perceived when the senses are purified by practice of devotional service. When you go to a temple, sometimes you see a murti and you see, when you're able to see it with the devotional eyes, with satsanga, with proper understanding, you will see that the Lord is present. So that is important. So how is he all pervading? How is he all pervading is what comes there. Then Krishna says, all beings are in me. So I have created everything, like sunshine is everywhere. So the sun is everywhere and all the universes are resting in the sunshine. Similarly, he also says in the example, wind is everywhere, but in ether, the entire heavy wind is. Krishna says, Mattaha paratam nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sutre maniganaiva. He says, I am the invisible person, avyakta, and everything rests upon me. We will see more of this later. Then he says, I am not in them. This implies that the Lord, by all his pervasiveness, does not lose his personal existence. It doesn't mean because he is in them, he is lost. Okay? So, this is, you need to get a little more into depth to totally understand it. I'm giving you an overview here. So, how does the Lord create? The Lord creates, and then he also destroys. He says, at the end of pralaya, everything enters into me, destruction. And when I recreate, I open up and let loose all the universes. So this is called the mahatma. From the spiritual world, the Lord lying as Mahavishnu, from the pores of his body come out universes, and within universe, every universe is sitting Brahma. And by just glancing at the Mahat he creates, and he creates all the planetary systems. This itself is a full-fledged lesson that we will do it after this 18-day session in future. But Brahma, the Lord, is called the primary creator. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Satchidananda Vigraha. The first primeval God is Krishna or Mahavishnu, and Krishna is the creator. Okay? Bhoktaram Yajnatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Like that, he says, Ishvara Parama Krishna. But then Brahma is the secondary creator. We say Brahma is the creator. Brahma creates from what Krishna has created. And so the living entities are then impregnated into this material nature. Then you have different species of life, 8,400,000 species of life. And then they all are born again and again. Brahma also has to disappear after 100 years of his life. And when he dies, so there is a pralaya happening every time after the 4 yugas, and then after many yugas, and then when Brahma passes away, and then every time it happens, the Lord recreates everything. So he is the controller of all the creation and the destruction, he says here. We have oftentimes heard of Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva as the creator, maintainer, and the destroyer. But actually he says, I am the ultimate creator. He creates all the universes within which in every universe Brahma sits, etc. I have dwelt upon it a little in detail, but let's move on. Then Krishna gives the most confidential knowledge moving on. He says, Nachamantani karmani nibadnanti dhananjaya udasinavadasinam asaktam teshu karmasu. No work can bind Krishna, even detached, ever detached. He is detached. Material world working under directions of Krishna. The Lord is not direct engagement. Doesn't mean he's got no engagement also. He's always engaged blissfully in the pastimes. Pastimes mean the Leela in the spiritual world. He is always with the Devatas, with the gopis, with his parents, with his devotees, enjoying the bliss, as you can see here in the spiritual world. But the creation is left for Durga as to manage the creation and to maintain. Durga means the prison house. We have all come into the prison house, and all of that is managed by Durga. So Krishna, supreme will, all the creation happens is his will, and without his superintendence, he says, the next verse he says, Maya Dyakshena Prakriti. By my supervision, everything happens. Maya Adhyakshena. Adhyaksha means the supervisor, right? By my superintendence. It doesn't mean that I've just left it and I'm not even watching out. I am carefully watching. Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam Hetunanena Kaunteya Jagat Viparivartate. But he says, I am neutral and I'm aloof and I simply sanction the material energy. Like, for instance, a judge in a courthouse. He is neutral. He knows everything. He sanctions the judgment. He says, yes, he goes to jail, or yes, he has to get this compensation. But he is neutral. So the Lord and each of them get their decision based on what wrong they have done or what good they have done. So the Lord has created everything. He's let Durga manage it. He's let all the demigods manage it. But he is aloof to it. But he still has an overall supervision. He's managing it. Management is done by material nature and on his behalf, okay, and he is having a very broad view of what is happening there. So this is the most important management technique. We all should know how to delegate and how to manage it from just having a supervision. Just don't give it away and forget about it, because it can take you wrong. So like that, Krishna also supervises anything that happens here. So the summary of what we learned here is the creation and destruction, the maintenance and the neutrality is being talked of here. The Lord is giving various important Sanskrit phrases here. Jagat Avyakta Murtina means his unmanifest form. Manifest. On an airline, when you go, they say manifest means you all really traveled. Unmanifest means Krishna is not visible, but he's there everywhere. When you have internet in your house, you're not able to see the internet, but you just go somewhere, you get connected. So you get connected, you get yourself ready, you can get connected to Krishna. Then he says, Kalpakshaye Punastani, Kalpada Vishrajamiham. And when the Kalpa is getting over, everything comes to me. And at the beginning of Kalpa, I am creating everything. Vishrajami Punapunaha, I'm creating again and again. And so this is the most important aspect that Krishna is bringing about here. Now, let's move on to the next section, section C, which is talking about non-worshippers and worshippers. He's differentiating very clearly. Now, Krishna is getting a little heavy with his words. Do not fear. So watch out. So sometimes if Hare Krishna devotees say, hey, rascals, Prabhupada used to say many times, Mudha means rascals. So let us understand what Krishna is covering in this part. In these verses 11 and 12 that we'll cover, he says, fools who think Krishna is an ordinary human being, possessing a temporary form, become atheists and are defeated in their endeavors. People do not understand who Krishna is. They think of him as a historic personality. Many times they think of him as an ordinary man, a historic personality, a superhuman. But to understand that he is everything is very difficult. Only devotees can understand it, and only if you understand the purport of Bhagavad Gita, you'll be able to understand it. And later on, he talks about various others who do not directly understand Krishna, okay, as direct. What happens to the Mahatmas? What do they do? How do they understand Krishna? And how do they know that Krishna is appearing in his transcendental form? Their nature is divine. And so he gives a view of these devotees who understand who Krishna is. First, he says who do not understand Krishna, and then he says how we should understand Krishna and who understand Krishna. So that's a very important aspect here. And I do not know why my... Okay, so let me get to the next verse. Why is my toolbar still there? I want my toolbar to disappear. You help me disappear this toolbar. I'm not able to read some parts. Please forgive me for the small interruption. I don't want it on the top also. Okay, thank you very much. We need technology. Okay, now getting on. Krishna says, this is the most important verse. It's a heavy verse. Avajananti mam mudha manushim thanumashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Avajananti, let's get to the later part. Mudha means fools. Mudha, fools. It says, fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They think God means only somebody who's got no form, and God, they can't even think God is a person. Okay, so these sort of people who cannot understand who Lord is. He says, Avajananti mam muda. Manushim thanumashritam, when I appear in this Manushya Thanu, in the form of a human being, they do not understand. Param bhavam ajananto, they do not understand me. My real nature, they do not understand. Jananti ajananto, we'll get to the later one. Mama bhuta maheshwaram. They do not understand that I am the Supreme Lord of all that be, Maheshwara. Right? Now, is it? Sorry. Please forgive me. Let's get to the next slide and then I'll talk and then you can get on. Okay, so as you try to fix my video, understanding the three terms. One is Jananti, means to understand. And what do we need to understand? We have to understand that Krishna is the truth that leads to liberation, and devotees understand Krishna. That's called Jananti. Jante hain. For Ajananti, those who do not know about Krishna, what happens to them? They continue to be in the cycle of birth and death. As you see here, you see the cycle of birth and death. And then what happens? Avajananti means those who do not understand. Ajananti means they have ignorance of Lord Krishna and they continue in the cycle of. But Avajananti, they have a misunderstanding of Krishna. And when they have a misunderstanding of who Krishna is, not knowing Krishna, because of ignorance, you come back again and again. But to wrongly think Krishna is not God, and that comes, okay? So in that situation, what happens? Just a second. Yeah. Then the person will lead envy, ignorance, anger, false prestige, pride, attachment, greed, lust. So when you do not understand Krishna properly and you misunderstand him, you will end up having all of these and you will lose out everything in life. So Krishna talks about these three terms. Then again he says, fools think that Krishna is an ordinary man. Although he appears ordinary, he is not a common man. Who Krishna is Yogam Aishwaram. Who accepts Krishna as Yogam Aishwaram? The pure devotee who knows Krishna as the Lord understands who Krishna is. And the result of this is he gets into bhakti yoga. He surrenders fully into Krishna. Okay? And who does not accept? The Muda. What does he do? Sometimes many great scholars, scientists, they may have education come in the material platform. They may be MA, BA, PhD. But spiritual knowledge is not taught in the universities, unfortunately. So just mere material education is not going to lead you anything. A fool is not a person who is only uneducated. Even the highly educated, but if they do not know who Krishna is, who do not know what Bhagavad Gita is, he is a Muda. And what is the knowledge they lack? They lack the knowledge that his eternal body is complete, Satchit Ananda Vigraha, and he is a supreme proprietor, and that he can award liberation to anyone. And his manifestation in the material world is only a manifestation of his internal energy. He controls the infinite and the finite, the biggest and the smallest. And that is what we need to understand from this particular verse. And now there is in this 12th chapter, in the 12th shloka, he says, Moghasha. What happens to those who do not understand him? All their asha is finished. Moghasha, Mogha Karmano, all the activities that they do, Moga Jnana, and all the knowledge that they may have, all of this baffled knowledge that they have, Vichetasaha, are all lost. All the ashas are misplaced, their activities are misplaced, their knowledge is misplaced, and so their hopes for liberation and fruitive activities and culture of knowledge are completely defeated. And who are they? They are called Rakshasim, Asurim, Chaiva. Their bhava is that of a Rakshasa or an Asura. Anybody who doesn't favorably think of the Lord is considered as a Rakshasa and Asura. He is here. The fate of those who out of bewilderment disrespect Krishna's form. Krishna is very heavy. He says, first you're a fool and a rascal. And he says, you will fall again into this material misery again and again. And you have a Rakshashi Swabhava. So it is important that we understand really who Krishna is. And now we get on to this very beautiful section here where he says, Mahatmana. Now he says, who are the Duratma? Those who do not understand Krishna. Now he compares it to Mahatma. He says, Mahatmanastumam Partha Devim Prakriti Mashritaha. There, Rakshashim, Asurim Prakriti. Here it is Devim Prakriti. And what do? Bhajanti Ananya Manaso. They are always chanting with their thoughts always fully engaged in me. Jnatva bhutadim avyayam. They know that I am original, bhuta ahadi, and avyayam, inexhaustible. Those of divine nature and are fully engaged in devotional service. And thus they know me as the Supreme Personality of God. Very important verse. Mahatma means a person who knows who is the Lord. And that Mahatma, he knows that he has got a Devi Prakriti, very spiritual knowledge. So what are the internal characteristics of a Mahatma? He's already situated in the protection of divine nature, Devim Prakritim, divine nature. And by surrender unto Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's situated in divine nature. And he gets guidance of spiritual nature. That's called Devi Prakriti. And he does not divert his attention to anything outside of Krishna. And how does he focus on Krishna? He knows Krishna to be the Supreme Person and he's attracted by his two-handed form, not even the four-handed form. Later in the 11th chapter, we will see Krishna showing the Vishwarupa form, and then Arjuna gets flabbergasted and he says, oh Krishna, please show me your four-handed form as Vishnu. And then he says, please Krishna, show me your Saumya Vapu, your two-handed form as Krishna. So if Krishna can show the four-handed form and the multiple universal form, that means Krishna had all of this in him. So all of them rest within Krishna is an understanding that we will see in the 11th chapter. Okay, so this is very important. He says, this is the Devim Prakritim. Then he says, what are the external activities of a Mahatma? What does such a Mahatma do? Now, don't we all want to become a Mahatma? Yes. If you want to become a Mahatma, we have to do only a few things. Satatam kirtayanto mam Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Satatam means always, 24 hours. Kirtayanto. About who? Kirtan can mean glorify. Mam, glorify me, Krishna says. Yatantascha dhravrataha. And how? With dhravrata means with firm faith. We talked of faith, ashraddhana. Here he says, no, dhravrata. And then he says, namasyantasya mam bhaktya, always bowing down before me. You see Arjuna falling down at the feet of Krishna. So we have to do punah punaha namaste. And he says, nitya yukta upasate. He's always engaged in worshipping me. Such a person is, these are the activities of a Mahatma. So we have to know who is a Mahatma. Then Krishna then jumps into those. He, in these two shlokas, he talked about Mahatma and the qualities of a Mahatma, but now he is talking about those who are indirect worshippers of Krishna. And here he says there are three kinds of indirect worshippers. They are, one is Ekatvena, those who worship themselves as God. Many times the impersonalists do that. And then Pratatvena, those who worship Pratatvena Bahuda, those who worship many gods and demigods, and those who worship Vishwatomukam, those who worship the Vishwarupa form of the Lord. So these are all covered in the various shlokas here in the 9th chapter, and also later covered in the various chapters. Ekatvena, those who are all self-worshippers of God. They consider themselves as God. Even that is a positive angle because they at least know that they are not this body, that they are the spirit soul. Bahuda, even here, they may concoct some form of supreme. They may worship that. They may include all the Upadevatas worship, but still, that is also positive than not worshipping. And the Vishwatomukam, those who worship the universal form. And so there are three levels of worshippers. He says Mahatmas are the topmost, and then there are four types of Sukrutinas. In the seventh chapter, we covered Artho, Jignasu, Artharthi, Jnani. And now he talks about three levels of Krishna's worshippers. So even though they worship themselves, they are also considered indirect worshippers of Krishna. Even though they worship all the other gods and demigods, they are considered as indirect worshippers of Krishna. And even though they worship the universal form of Krishna, they are considered indirect worshippers of Krishna. So Krishna is gradually bringing into saying what is the difference between the indirect worship and the direct worship. And let's go there. Okay. Then now here Krishna says that I am the object of worship. In these verses 16 to 25, these worshippers of the universal form, Krishna as sacrifice, ritual, syllable, om. Oh, very important, very beautiful shloka. Aham kraturaham yajnah sutaham aham aushadam mantroham amahanyam aham agnir aham hutam pitahamasya jagato mata data pitamaha vedyam pavitram omkara riksama yajurevata. Various ways of considering worship of Krishna in the universal form. And he then talks about worshippers of the demigods, those who worship all the other devatas. Then he says, is that correct or incorrect? Is that direct worship? What is the destination of those? Many of us may not know it. So Krishna is heavy here. Let's go to those verses. So he says you can approach him through karmakanda, through rituals, through sacrifices, through oblations, through fire. And he says all of these are a way of reaching me. This is through the karmakanda. Then he says, Pitahamasya, I am the father, and Mata, I am the mother, and I am the Dhata, I am the support. Then he says, Pitamaha, I am the grandfather. Bhishma Pitamaha, we say, Vedhyam, I am the knower of everything. Pavitram, I am the purifier. I am Omkara. Even if we chant Om, he says, Krishna says, I am Om. Om is the beginning of all the mantras. And then he says, I am the Rig, Sama, and Yajur mantras too. And Krishna says, we create different relationships with different living entities who are nothing but Krishna's marginal energy. So under my Prakriti, Devim Prakritim, all of this happen, and all our relationships with our father, mother, grandfather, all happens because they are parts and parcels of Krishna, and so are we part and parcel of Krishna. So let's move on to the next verse. He says, Gathir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi Nivasaha Sharanam Suhrut Prabhavaha Pralayaha Stanam Nidhanam Bijamavayam. How more can you relate? Gati. Krishna is the ultimate goal for all of us. Gati. Durgati, Sugati, Krishna Gati. We have to reach Krishna as the ultimate goal. And if we do not have Krishna as the ultimate goal, we will lost. We'll be lost and we'll be in the repeated cycle of birth and death. And Krishna says, Bharta. And then he says, Bharta means the sustainer because he is on whom everything sustains. And Prabhu, in Hare Krishna, we call everybody Prabhu, means we call him the master. That means they're saying, I'm your servant. It's not that he is Prabhu, that he is Krishna. We don't call everybody as Krishna. And witness, Krishna is called Sakshi. And many times we think, oh, nobody is watching me, so I can do something wrong. The children sometimes they think, Papa is not there at home, so I can do something wrong now. I won't study, I won't do this. No, but Krishna is called Sakshi. He is the witness. He is there everywhere, like the internet is pervaded everywhere. Krishna is watching everything. So he is called the Sakshi. And so we need to be sure and clear that Krishna is watching. So don't think nobody has witnessed what wrong things they have done. Krishna has watched it all and he's got a whole mechanism by which he's keeping control. So beware. You don't need to fear in Krishna, but you need to be aware that Maya Dhyaksena, he is constantly supervising, watching, and aboard Dhama, Parandhama, and he is the ultimate goal of our shelter. Say Sharanam, and he is Suhrut. Ultimately, Krishna is our best friend. Let us not think and fear Krishna. Oh, Krishna is doing everything. Oh, I need to be very careful. I need to fear. No, no, no. Just be a friend. Be casual with him. He likes it more if you are casual then you're very, very formal, Aishwarya Bhava. Then he says, in these next two shlokas, he says, huh? Traividhyamam somapaha putapapa yajnairištva swargatim prartayante te punyamasadhya surendra lokam ashnanti divyan divideva bhogan. Many times people want to do many, many activities because they want to enjoy in the heavenly kingdom, and therefore they study the Vedas, they worship gods and demigods with that as a person. But then here he's saying, so the many times people worship the demigods with that in mind, but the path of demigod worshippers, he says, te punyamasadhya surendra lokam ashnanti divyan divi deva bhogam. But he says, Tetam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam. The swargaloka is very vast. You can enjoy amazing pleasures in swargaloka. People in India think you come to Dubai, you enjoy so many things. Mala mal hai. Ye kar sakta hai, wo kar sakta hai. You can buy so much of gold. You just come to Dubai, you just dig in the land, you will get oil. Oh ho ho. So the heavenly planets, imagine how great they are. So many times we try to do so many activities so that we want to attain everlasting happiness. But we have to understand that all that is exhaustive. Nothing is everlasting that is given by the demigods. And so he says, this path is only offering the repeated birth and death. So he says, Ekam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam, shine punye martyalokam vishanti. You take a visa to go to America for a holiday and you think you want to stay as long as possible. You take $10,000, you go there within 1 month, $10,000 gone. You have to either call back home and send more money or wind up and come back to Dubai or come back to India. So people who go away to Swargaloka after enjoying Swargaloka, shine punye martyalokam vishanti. But evam trayi dharma manuprapannaha gata gatam kama kamala. In this way, they keep going up and down, up and down. Brahmanda Brahmite, one Shastra says, Kono Bhagyavan Jiva, Guru Krishna Prasada Paya, Bhakti Lata Bija. Devotees get the mercy of Guru and Krishna. When they get the seed of Bhakti, then they stop going into all the Brahmanda and going here and there. Bhatakte nahi hai. They are fixed. So here we perform yajna to get swarga and you acquire enough credits and then you go there and you enjoy the credits and then you are thrown down again. But now the Lord says, for those who worship the gods and the demigods, you will get some benefit, but as soon as your punya is finished, you'll come back. You may go to heavenly kingdom, but you'll come back. But he is now saying, he is just up positioning it by saying, Ananyas chintayanto mam. This is one of the most important shlokas. Ananyas chintayanto mam ejana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyaham. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, mind you, exclusive devotion. Ananya. Anya means others. Ananya means without thinking of anybody else. Krishna is very selfish. He wanted one pointed attention. Sometimes when you are playing with children, when they are small, you're looking here and there, they will pull your sari, pull your dress. They want you to only look at them and play with them, right? Krishna is like that. Krishna pulled Yashoda's sari to say, Mommy, take care of me. Give me milk. Why you're taking care of the butter and going to the kitchen? But Krishna wants one pointed attention. That theme is continuing right through in this chapter, even till the last shloka. Ananyas chintayanto mam. Think of me. Those ejanaha pariyupasate, those who worship me like that, to them, tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamiham. I give them what they lack, what they need for their day-to-day requirements, and what they do not have, I give them, and what they have, I protect them. Yogakshemam vahamiham. I carry what they lack, and I preserve what they have. This is a very, very important verse. And in this particular verse, Krishna also says there is direct worship, you achieve complete perfection of by Krishna's grace. Krishna says for them, I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. There is one great Acharya called Arjuna Acharya. Arjuna Acharya, when he was reading this, he says, Krishna says, I will carry what you lack, I'll carry it and bring it. He felt that's not right. Why should Krishna carry it for me? So he struck off that word and went to have a bath in his house. His wife was preparing food, and he said he'll have a bath and come back and rethink on what the shloka is. And his wife finds two boys who come in, and these two boys are crying and coming to the house. And these two boys say, Oh, Mama, Mataji, we are very, your husband, we didn't serve him properly, so he's already had a bath and he's eaten, he's very angry, and he said, why, what did he do? She says, look at the mark that I have on my back, he beat me up. So the lady thinks, why is my husband behaving like this today? She says, okay, my husband has already eaten, so let me sit and eat prasadam as she's eating. Arjuna Acharya comes back after having a bath. Arjuna Acharya comes back, sees his wife eating. Generally, she eats only after serving her husband. But today she's eating ahead. He says, what is happening? What are you doing today? She says, I don't understand what you're doing. How come you bred those two boys? And these two boys showed, and they brought this prasadam. And she said, how do these two boys look like? Says, one was black in color, one was white in color. Arjunacharya thought, oh, it is Krishna and Balaram who have come. And immediately understood that Krishna and Balarama came to teach him this lesson. And they were all having this mark behind because Bhagavad Gita was underlined and cut off and struck off. That is the importance of every verse of Bhagavad Gita. Ekam Shastram. Every verse, Shlokardam, Shlokapadam va. Every part of Bhagavad Gita is spiritual. Please, even if you learn one shloka, even if you learn this shloka today, it is beneficial to all of you. And a devotee is perfect in his realization and is perfect in his yoga and is perfect. He refers to merciful protection. So he is being mercifully protected by Krishna. So this is the importance. If we serve Krishna, Krishna will take care of everything. Rakshishyati iti vishwa. So we should have that faith again that Krishna will protect us. He will give us what we lack. So let us not cry that I didn't get it, coronavirus, I lost my job, this happened to me, that happened to me. No, don't worry. Krishna has a plan. You do what your plan is. And you, if you have difficulties, Sukme Simirana, Dukme Simirana Sabkare, Sukme Karena Kovi. Many times we do not worship the Lord when we are happy and when we have a job. When we lose a job, only we want for Krishna, right? We go to Krishna with a shopping bag. Many times we think, Krishna, I go to Balaji only for asking. No, let us not. Bhakti is not going and asking Krishna for everything. Fine, even if you have to ask, you can ask him. But bhakti is, what can I give to Krishna? And what do you think you can give to Krishna? Krishna will very soon tell us here, very soon in this particular verse. Then he says in the next verse, he says, Epi anya devata bhaktaha yachante shraddhayanvitaha tepi mameva kaunteya yajanti avidhi purvakam. Those who are devotees of other gods, epi anya devata bhakta yajanti shraddhayan, with shraddha, they worship with a lot of shraddha. Tepi mameva, even they are indirectly worshipping me. Kaunteya, Arjuna, understand. But yajanti avidhi purvakam, without proper process. They do not know what is the right form of worship. O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. This is a heavy statement. Again, Krishna is talking about worship of all the devatas, 33 crores of devatas. How do we have time to worship all of them? So he says, when you worship all the other devatas, you're doing it avidhi purvaka. Now, doesn't mean you don't respect the devatas. We respect all the devatas, okay? But you should understand the hierarchy. You should understand who is the supreme and that the devatas are serving that supreme. So in one organization, you have the big boss and you have your boss who is reporting to the big boss. So when you only worship or only serve your own boss and not your big boss, that's wrong, right? But when you know that your boss is only serving the big boss, and so I all have to work together, but not only this department, but all the other departments, not thinking of departments as silos. So then you understand the entire hierarchy of the Lord, then it is okay. If you do not understand and you think my boss is the only one, I won't do anything for the others, that is avidhi purvakam. So demigod worship without the knowledge of Krishna's worship, supremacy is called avidhi purvakam. So we talked already about the watering the branches and the tree. Again, if you want to feed your body, each arm says, no, I will eat it, I will not feed the mouth. No, the intelligence is to feed into the mouth and then it goes into the stomach and there's energy all over the body. So that is the way we need to do. We have to feed Krishna. We have to worship Krishna. We have to offer everything to Krishna. And that is real form of worship. And when you do that, all the Devi Devatas are most happy. If you otherwise only worship one of the 33 crore devatas, the other 33, 32.9999 will say, why did you worship me? So this is another sign that the Lord says. Then the Lord says, Aham hi sarvejnanam bhokta cha prabhurevacha natumam abhijananti tatve natachyavanti te. I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Very similar to the last verse in the earlier sixth chapter that we saw. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam. I think it was in the seventh chapter. Bhoktaram Yajnasapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Like that, he says, I am the enjoyer and master of all the sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my transcendental nature fall down. Aham hi sarvajnana. Okay? Then Krishna says, I'm the only enjoyer. I'll move on from this to the next slide. Then he says, Yanti Devavrata Devana Pitrun Yanti Pitravrataha. He says, different people worship different people. Some people worship the Pitras, who are the forefathers. Some people worship the Devatas, yeah, and some people worship the ghosts and goblins. So he says, different people worship differently. Go to their planets. They do not come to me, but my devotees come to me. Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja Yanti Madhyajinopi Mam. Only my devotees come to me. He says that very clearly. So many times we think, all road leads to Rome. जो कुछ भी करना है करने दो. Whoever he worships, that's okay. Yes, indirectly everything reaches Krishna. Akashat patitam toyam yachagati seshagaram, Krishna says. Like when the rain water comes from the sky, everything comes into rivulets and slowly into rivers, and finally it gets into the sea. So any worship of anybody gets to Krishna, no doubt. But we should know that if you worship Krishna, you get a direct elevator to go to Krishna. Otherwise, you will stop at every stage, go one by one by one by one. Burj Khalifa, imagine going every floor. It's going to be very difficult. So this is also very important. All roads lead to Rome. It's not right. Yato mat tato pat is a very common saying. Worship anybody, no problem. It's all same. No, sir. Krishna says, Yanti madhyaji no pimam. He's making it very, very clear. Right? Then comes the very beautiful, the last section of Bhagavad Gita, which is called the glory of bhakti, the glories of directly worshipping Krishna. Now he comes to the crux, the most confidential knowledge. And Krishna says, one who worships me, one who worships him with devotion, even a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, etc., he accepts it. And Krishna says, all the austerities, charities he performs, he offers to me. And he, such a person, will be able to be free from all reactions. And let's get to the shlokas. And then he says, last, a devotee, even if he's, what happens to a devotee who is doing something, but he falls down? What happens? In the 7th chapter also, there are questions like that. So again, there's an ask here. What happens? Krishna says, don't worry. He's on the right path, even though he may commit some mistakes. I'll take care of him. Let's dwell upon those shlokas. And so then Krishna says, by thinking of Krishna, offering obeisances, becoming absorbed in him, regardless of his position, he'll go back home back to Godhead. So he gives a promise that a person who worships Krishna will come back to him. Surely, that's the promise that we all want. We want that faith that Krishna will protect me and we are on the right path, in the right direction. Let's get to that shloka. Two shlokas, very important. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti upahritam ashnami prayatatmanaha. If one offers me, kya mang rahe hain Bhagwan? The Lord says, give me. What is he asking? A leaf, patram, pushpam, a flower, phalam, a fruit, or toyam? Oh, what is toyam, sir? Water. Or water, not even every one of them. Any one of them. And he says, Yome, how? Bhaktya prachati. Krishna is called Bhavagrahi Janardana. He does not see how many liters of water, how many kilos of flowers and fruits that you brought. He sees with what bhava you brought it to me. Right? Yome Bhaktya prachati. Bhakti is important. Our emotion with which we worship the Lord is most important. This is another important learning. It's not in quantity. What is the emotion and the faithfulness with which, Shraddha with which we worship Him. Tadaham bhakti upahritam ashnami. I accept it all. Prayatatmanaha. Being very, very pleased, he says. The next verse is very tough. This seemed easy. Aha, Krishna Bhakti is very easy. Patram, pushpam, palam, toyam. Oh, I can get it anywhere. Dubai, Timbuktu, any part of the world, I can get these 4 items, right? But then he says, like Prabhupada used to say, get in like a needle and come out like a plow. Start with Patram Pushpam. Gradually, you'll come to a stage of Yat Karoshi, Yadashnasi. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, Yat Juhoshi, whatever you offer, Dadasi and give away as charity, Yat Tapasyasi, and whatever tapasya you may perform, Arjuna, Tat Kurushva. Do that as a Mad Arpanam. Do that as an offering unto me. Again, we all think I have money, I give charity. No, I should think Krishna has given me this wealth. Krishna is giving charity through me. That's all, right? Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering unto me. Now, Krishna accepts anything that is offered. So he says a leaf, flower, fruit, or water. What types of sacrifice? Simple. You don't need to do big sacrifices, big tapasya. No, 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 no. Simple. Leaf, flower, fruit, or water. Why should you offer? He enjoys. When you offer, then he enjoys your emotion, and he sees that you are engaged. When a child is offering something small to the father, he's so happy, right? It may not be big, it's just a token that the child gives. The father is so happy. Krishna is very happy. Then he says, what should be the attitude while offering? Most important element in preparation and serving is love. We should offer our love, our hridaya. We should offer our love. If we offer love to Krishna, love, if we offer, many times people think love is to enjoy something, is to get something. Huh? Now, when you eat something good, you think, oh, many times who are fish eaters, they think, I love fish. But actually, by loving fish, does fish get any benefit? No, you're killing this fish, boiling it and eating it. But you have to think more positively about how I am going to give. Real love is to give, real love is not to take. So we should understand how to give to Krishna, how to give to devotees, how to give to others, even within family and relationship. When we know how to give, then only the Lord says, oh, he's giving me so much, so beautifully. Like Krishna, once a fruit vendor came and she says, oh, and Krishna says, well, let me get he goes inside the house and he brings some small grains, and as he brings grains, all the grains are falling out of his arms, and as he is putting it in the basket of the lady, only two grains are there, but the lady is seeing the beauty of Krishna and she gives all the mangoes and fruits that she has and decking it all upon Krishna. And then when Krishna walks out, she looks into the basket, she gets everything. So Krishna says, when you give with love, I give myself to you. That's the most important bit here, right? Bhakti is compared here to other processes. Bhakti is the simplest process. Krishna wants only loving service, irrespective of quantity. And the importance of bhakti in this shloka, he says, the next shloka, he says, Yat karoshi, yadashnasi, yat juhoshi, dadasyat, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. Right? So you offer everything. So in this particular purport, so he says bhakti word is coming twice, thrice here. And then again, bhakti is never casual. And then he says bhakti is easy and universal. Anybody can do bhakti. There's no qualification required for bhakti. A child can do, a dog can do, an animal can do. And the sign of an intelligent person engages in Krishna's loving service. Okay? Then, uh, what is the most confidential knowledge? Is the last couple of shlokas. So Krishna says, Yat karoshi yadashnasi, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you give away, whatever austerities you perform, do that as an offering unto me. So we have to come to the state. So every day, morning to evening, cooking, bathing for Krishna, cooking for Krishna, dressing for Krishna, working for Krishna, dealing with my family for Krishna, and eating Krishna's prasadam, offering for Krishna. Every activity when we do, thinking I'm doing for Krishna. Charity, thinking I'm doing it on behalf of Krishna. Krishna, you have given it, and I'm giving it on your behalf. That is real bhakti. And the most confidential knowledge, then it says, Shubha Shubha Palaireva. What will be the result of those who are acting like this? Their mind will be fixed on Krishna, and they'll be fixed on Him permanently. And that is their renunciation. And they will get liberation, freedom from bondage, to work and auspiciousness, and inauspicious activities are all gone. Moksha se karma bandhanehi, no karma bandhana, and they have a realization of Krishna, liberation, that comes to me. That's the real realization that they get. Then Krishna is not partial. He says, Samoham sarva bhuteshu. I'm not partial. But he says, Ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya. Samoham sarva bhut. Na me dveshyo sinapriya. I don't have an enemy or I don't have a friend. But Ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya. Now listen, Krishna is equal to everybody. But if somebody is a devotee, Krishna says, I have a soft corner. If you follow what I tell you, then you have my soft corner. I sell myself totally to you. That is it. Within parents, there may be many children. Many children may not listen to the parents, but one child who all the parents think about all the children equally. But the child who respects the parents and hears what the parents say, the parents have more affection. Krishna is like that parent of ours who is very affectionate. He's just waiting for us to look back and worship him. And so this is the bit. Krishna is equal to all and no one. And no one is his special friend. Why does he take special interest? There is that discrimination. But that is natural, he says. It is not discrimination, it is natural. Any man in material world may be charitably disposed, but has special interest to his own children, right? So you may have given a lot of charity, but your family you have to take care. But we become his family. So the Lord's dealing in general with people. He deals with everybody equipoised. He gives all the benefits to everybody. But with the devotees, there's a very important slide, though I'm rushing it. But for devotees, he gives very special attention. For devotees, he says that they as they're living, they are transcendentalists. And he says, they are in me. And he says, I reciprocate. Ye yathamam prapadyante. As they worship me, I also worship them. That is the reciprocal arrangement that he gives. And then he says, they worship me personally. Therefore, I also worship them and respect them personally. And so this is the activity that Krishna gives. Like, both the devotee and the Lord sits perfectly. A diamond alone doesn't look so good. When you put a diamond on a gold, both the diamond and the gold look so good. So the Lord is the diamond and we are the gold. And it comes together. It's perfect equation. So as devotees, we should know how to surrender into the Lord. Now, the Lord then says, even if a devotee is imperfect, Krishna says, apite suduracharo. Bhajate mam ananya bhak, sadhureva samantavya. Sometimes somebody is in a devotional path, but he is still doing a lot of nonsense. We can see that he is committing sinful activities. So we sometimes think, he's dongi hai. He thinks that he's doing some activities and he's showing off that he's a devotee, but he's not in the right path. So Krishna says, watch out. It's not for you to decide. It's my call. But even though you look like a sudhuracharo, durachar itself means imperfectly performed. Sudhuracharo means abominable activities you do. Krishna says, please, you consider him a sadhu. If he is in Krishna consciousness, if he is chanting the names of the Lord, if he is visiting the temple, forget him. Sometimes people, when they come to bhakti, they've been doing all nonsense. They might have been a mafia. But when they suddenly turn to Krishna, they can't turn it in one day. Slowly they give up, right? When you switch off the fan, it takes some time. So like that, Krishna is giving them this buffer zone by which they will come on. He says, he is situated in determination. He is worshipping me and he will quickly become righteous. He says in the very next verse. He says, the next verse, and he says, sadhu reva, you have to consider him as a sadhu. And then he says, caution, do not think that that allowance is only there for accidental fall down. Not that you wear all the dress of a bhakta, but you keep doing it wantonly again and again, and then try to do prayaschitta. It doesn't work. So devotional service, you have to do it. The warning is, till we are not strong enough, we may have accidental fall downs, but as we get stronger, we need to become stronger and see that we do not commit the same sins again and again. So this is a very important aspect. Then Krishna says, Shipram bhavati dharmatma. Shipram means very soon he becomes a dharmatma. Even though he is a mafia, he becomes a dharmatma. Shashwat shantim nigachati. And he attains everlasting peace. Kaunteya pratijanihi. Hey Arjuna, you promise name bhaktah pranashyati, that my devotee never perishes. So when a person succumbs to this particular activity and he is doing some wrong activities, what happens? Krishna purifies him. He takes control. He quickly becomes righteous and he attains everlasting peace. And the promise of Krishna, my devotee never perishes. The interesting thing in the shloka is, Kaunteya, Arjuna, you promise that my devotee never perishes. Krishna is not himself promising. In the past, he gave some promises. But very soon in the battle, he's going to fight and he's going to break his own promise when he is fighting with Bhishma. He took a vow that he will not lift weapons, but he broke his own promise to protect Bhishma's promise. And so he will protect devotees' promise. So he says, Kaunteya, if you promise, people will realize, because as a devotee, when you promise, I will not break my promise. My own promise I can break, your promise I will fulfill. Right? So name bhakta pranashati. So let us all understand that if we are on this path, we will never fall. Okay, this is the most important aspect here. Then we get on. Even if now he says, even for unqualified classes, okay, even they can approach me very easily, he says. Okay, and then what about those who have qualifications of like brahmanas, saintly kings, and devotees? Shloka, I'm closing with this. Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vashyasi yuktvaivam atmanam matparayanaha. Manan, mana, bhava, madhyaji, mame vaishyasi, mam. He says, engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer your namaskar to me. Offer your worship to me. Be completely absorbed in me. Surely you'll come to me. This is the most confidential part of what Krishna is teaching here. Just surrender unto him. Later also he says, Sarva dharman parityajya ekam this shloka almost in 75% repeated again in the 18th chapter just before Sarvadharman Paritijya. He says the same shloka twice in Bhagavad Gita, almost. So he says, this is what we need to understand as the crux of Bhagavad Gita. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer your namaskar to me and worship me. And being completely absorbed in me, you will surely come to me. This is the most important aspect of Bhakti Yoga. How to engage one's mind? Engage in his eternal form, the primal form as Krishna, with conviction that Krishna is supreme. Engage the mind, body, mana, the mind, body, and activities in his service without deviation. You can do the Navavidha Bhakti, and you will definitely be transferred to Krishna Loka. And what is real bhakti? It's defined based on correct understanding. One should think of Krishna as a person. Don't think Krishna, God. God is there in his impersonal form, but God is definitely there in his personal form. Avajananti mam mudha manushim tanumashritam. Remember that. So Krishna says, I am in my form as Krishna. Do not doubt that. And you have to be favorably in devotional love. And what is that favorable cultivation? You should accept a spiritual master, and gradually, through that understanding, you will understand who the Lord is. This knowledge is given by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. I just want to just quote one other part in Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna says, Sadavo hridayam mahyam sadunam hridayam tuaham madanyathena jananti. Again, jananti. Naham tebhyo manakapi. The pure devotee is always within the core of my heart, and I am always in the heart of the pure devotee. My devotee do not know anything else but me, and I do not know anyone else but them. If we, as devotees of Krishna, think about Krishna at all times, it is possible. It's not difficult. And Krishna says, I will be constantly thinking of you. And that is the promise that Krishna is giving here. So we need to understand, when you become lost in thoughts of Krishna, Krishna becomes lost in thoughts of you. That is the most important lesson that is taught here today in this chapter. And so, again, thanks. This is from the Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada, the most confidential knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. Invite Harinam to also join me in this particular session so that we can together take on the questions that wonderful devotees may have.
Thank you very much, Srivala Prabhu. There are some questions which some devotees have asked. Should I mention those questions to you so that it's easier?
Please, and some questions you can take yourself, and some questions you can pass to me.
Yes, thank you. So one of the first question is that I heard Durga, who manages the material world, is the sister of Krishna. Is it true?
Yes, she is, as Katyayini Mahamai. Before Krishna's appearance, she appeared as Mahamaya, and she takes various forms as Durga, Katyayani, Chandika, Kalika, Vaishnadevi, all of those, Vaishnavi, all. She is the sister, and she is also the controller of the material world. Your question is right, and that's the answer.
Another question is, how does one know that there are only 33 crore of demigods and not more?
It is mentioned in the scriptures that there are 33 crores. You want more? Actually, there are many people who refute to say there are less. So even 33 crores, I don't know if we all count the number of demigods. We can't count more than 20, 30. The most erudite scholar may be able to only count 20 or 30. And now the purpose, what we need to think rather than the number, is that there are too many. Now, if this is a government machinery, so in the machinery of any government, there is a ruler or the president or the prime minister, and there are various ministries, and each ministry have various directors and various government officials, right? So the demigods, the Upadevatas are all like that in the hierarchy of the Lord. And so the purpose we need to understand is they are all millions and millions who are also serving that one person. That is the understanding we need to get to. I'm not fixated on how many are the numbers of demigods, but Shastra say that there are too many and you cannot satisfy all of them, therefore satisfy one. Eko Devo Devaki Putreva. Over.
Another question is, in Vishnu Puran, Krishna is the eighth avatar of Krishna. Of eighth avatar, this is always so confusing.
Okay, so what you need to understand is Krishna is the supreme. Now, there are basically broad concepts we all understand about. Harinam, you wanted to take that?
Yeah, so basically, in every scripture, the importance of that particular God is primarily mentioned. But what we need to understand is that all the scriptures, all the Vedas, they finally conclude that Vasudev, Krishna, who is the son of Vasudev, is the supreme personality of Godhead. In fact, even Srimad Bhagavatam mentions this verse, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and from him all other incarnations they emanate. And not only this, but Krishna, he expands himself into three Vishnus. We studied this in the 7th chapter, some bit of that in 7th chapter, where he first expands himself into Karanodakshai Vishnu, then there is Shirodakshai Vishnu, and then Karanodakshai Vishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and Shirodakshai Vishnu, who is within our heart as Paramatma. So it's not that Vishnu, from Vishnu Krishna is coming, it is actually from Krishna Vishnu comes and he maintains and he creates the whole universe.
While irrespective of that, Vishnu and Krishna are very, very close. And so Krishna is just the informal form is Krishna. The official form is Vishnu. So when a person is in the house, he deals with his family very nicely. When he goes to office, suited, booted, Aishwarya form, that is Vishnu. So between them, there's hardly any difference. Between the others two, they are very closely working together as Shiva and Brahma are all subservient to Krishna here. Now, you talked of the eighth incarnation. Yes, generally there's Dashavatar, but Bhagavatam also describes 24. And then it says, after describing all of them, it says, all of them are just part and parcel, just a small part of Krishna, and Krishna's to Bhagavan Swayam. Over. It's a very long topic. We'll have a separate session on it. Okay.
There's another question which was asked earlier also in various other chapters in the past. What about chanting Vishnu Sahasranam? Shivalabji, you want to answer this question?
Should I take this question, Harinam Prabhu?
Yes.
Okay. Vishnu Sahasranam is 1,000 names of Vishnu. Bhishma chanted Vishnu Sahasranam right in front of Krishna, and then he applied his mind on Krishna. And then at the end of Vishnu Sahasranama, there's a very nice episode where Parvati is saying, this Vishnu Sahasranam is very important, but how can I? I'm not a Pandita. Kene upayana laguna Vishnor nama sahasrakam pattyater panditer nityam shrotumityamaham prabho. So Shiva says, Shri Rama Rama Rameti. Oh Rame, 3 times you chant the name of Rama, it is equivalent to Sahasranama Tattulyam Rama Nama Varanane. So there are these various comparisons that are there in the Shastra. Like we all know Vishnu Sahasranama. So like this it is there. Similarly, it says that chanting the name of Krishna is equivalent to chanting the Vishnu Sahasranama in full. One time chanting Krishna is equivalent to chanting the entire Vishnu Sahasranama. So these are all comparisons from the various Puranas. Padma Purana, I quoted from you right now about what Shiva said. Similarly, there are others. So Vishnu Sahasranama is wonderful to chant. It's very beautiful. Bhishma Pitamaha personally chanted. Very good if you can apply yourself in thinking and chanting all the 1,000 names of the Lord, but also get to start slowly understanding the various activities of the Lord, which is being explained in each of the name. Each name has got a particular meaning. So get into that also. It's beautiful. But when you chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it encompasses everything. So you're most welcome. You should chant Vishnu Sahasranama, but do not miss out on the opportunity of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra also. Over.
Yes, there's another question which is a pertinent question usually in spiritual talks. Why women are considered as lower birth? Actually, if I may answer this, Srila Prabhu.
Please, please.
Yeah, actually, women in general are dependent on the male in general. So the scriptures mention that when a lady, a girl, till she gets married, should be protected by the parents. After she gets married, she should be protected by the husband. And when the husband is not there, she should be protected by the son. So in general, women are always to be protected. And in fact, in the Vedic culture, woman was always respected. If you see, even when we call out the names of the Lord, we always say Radha Krishna, Lakshmi Narayan. So first we call out the name of the female aspect of the Lord. So in general, it is not to demean or disrespect women, but because they are in general dependent on Purusha, that's why they are considered lower birth. But we should not take a literal sense that they are some untouchable. It's not that it means like that. So the Lord, because women are to be protected, children are to be protected, old people are to be protected, that's why they are considered as lower birth.
I also want to add one point here to say Krishna is called Purusha and we are all called Prakriti. So both men and women are Prakriti, means we are being enjoyed by Krishna. Like in the normal parlance, you take that, the man enjoys women. Okay. Now there may be various issues to do it on this particular topic. But then the point here is Krishna is considered to be the Purusha and we are all men or women. Krishna views everybody equally. Kunti was one of the topmost. Similarly, there is so much that is there of women. In fact, women are better suited. All the gopis are more in love with Krishna and they have real bhakti. Their own men who may be brahmanas did not realize who Krishna was, but these women understood who Krishna was. So women are more better placed in understanding the Lord, but they have to be protected, as Harinam Prabhu said here. So it is not with any disrespect, but with more respect, in other words.
Yeah, another question is, it is mentioned that at the time of death, remember me, Krishna says, you will reach me. In chapter 9, it is said devotional service. Please clarify. Shivalabji, you want to answer?
I just was distracted for a second reading another question. Just repeat that question, please.
Yeah, the question is that it is mentioned at time of death, remember me, you will reach me. That's what Krishna says. But in chapter 9, it is said devotional service is important.
Yeah.
So can you clarify?
So what he says is devotional service is nothing but remember me. What is devotional service? Krishna says, do service, thinking about me. So ultimately it is the same. Man mana bhava mad bhakto. That is it. So both are same. So ultimately during our life as well as preparation for final stages of life, we should always be fortunate to think about Krishna.
Another question is, who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Is he really the last incarnation of Krishna till now? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually is Krishna himself who came 500 years ago. And this has been confirmed even in the verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. And we are going to have more discussion and detailed explanation about him in the future sessions. So your answer will be given in more detailed fashion in the later sessions.
Yes.
Can Brahmaji be referred as Lord? So, yes, in fact, all demigods, we normally refer them as Lord, but it is just like calling Ishvara and Parameshvara. So, all the demigods, all the devatas, we address them as Ishvara, whereas the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, we address him as Parameshvara.
There's one question here. Can we talk about Bhagavad Gita to people from other religions? I just wanted to take that point to say, yes, this is our scriptural book. We need to take it. We need to speak about Bhagavad Gita with complete respect to the other scriptural teachings in the religions. And if you really have time after you've studied full Bhagavad Gita, I would also suggest that you can take it on and compare and read. The essence of the teachings are the same. It's given to different people and different time, place, circumstance, but ultimate knowledge is the same. But definitely, knowing from Bhagavad Gita here at the beginning, Krishna says Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam. So he says this is a king of knowledge. So we think that this gives very, very detailed description about the Lord.
There's another question. Should we remember our ancestors and pray to them?
So we should remember them and we should seek their blessings to pray to Krishna. So when we do anything, Shraddha, etc., even when you do Shraddha, you first offer the bhoga to Krishna, and that bhoga is offered to the Pitris. But if you then serve the Vaishnavas, if you feed devotees to the Vaishnavas, in thinking that you are benefiting the Pitris because the Pitris are possibly still there, and so when you do the worship, it's not fully as worship as Pitris. It is you give respect to the Pitris, but some people just rely on worship of Pitris, and that's why Krishna says that they only go to the Pitra Loka. But we have to understand that Pitris should also be given an opportunity to worship Krishna, and therefore we need to understand them as servants of the Lord also. Some houses that we go in their altar, the Krishna is there on top, they will have their father mother's pictures. When the father and mother were in the world, they would not have respected the father and mother, but after the father and mother have gone, they put them right on top. Now we need to understand hierarchy here and take care. We need to understand the status of our father and mother and think that they are Mata, Pita, Guru, Devam. They have led us to Krishna. They've given us this body. We are obligated to them. We have to always seek their blessings, but they are not God. That's the understanding we need to have.
Yeah, I think, should we take one or two more questions, or should we?
There's one question that I saw. I just wanted to answer that. If Krishna is present everywhere, then why do we worship deities? Why not? If Krishna is everywhere, you should worship him in the form of deities. And in the deity made of wood, why wood? The deities can be made in the form of a wood or panchaloha, anything. But actually, we are not worshipping the deity just like that. We are praying, and it's something called prana pratishta. So when you do prana pratishta, then the Lord is personally present there. If the Lord can be present in me as an Atma, can be present in a tree as an Atma, can be present in a mountain. I just read a few days ago that Himalayas have grown by 3 inches. So Himalayas are also growing. The Shastras say that even Himalayas are living entities, right? The rivers are living entities. So the Lord is there everywhere. And so he's definitely there, even in a form that we invoke him and worship him. So, but sometimes when you just see a form here, now I have a beautiful form here. This is paper mesh. But when I see the beauty of Krishna, but I don't worship this paper as Krishna. No, I take it on to a different level to worship Krishna. That is the understanding that we have. So in our temples, when we do, so many times people accuse us of idol worshippers. No, we worship the Lord who is locally present when he is called for, especially in that form. We can worship him in that form. Shastras give detailed signs about how that can be done. A very brief idea for that. Last thing, very brief idea is India is represented in this part of the world, in this country, by the ambassador. So ambassador is taken as a representative of India, right? Like how you represent a guru. Like that, when you make a particular form, even though it is man-made, but you invoke the Lord to come in, it is treated as a deity. It is not treated as idol. It is not treated as statue. It is treated as murti or deity. The Lord is personally present there. And why cannot the Lord be presently present there? He is omnipotent, omnipresent. He can be there, right? If he can be in both of us, he can be there. Over.
There's an interesting question. We'll take this as a last question. Should we call our Bhagwan as Lord in English? Then Lord is a title given to the official of the British who ruled India and also many others, thereby demeaning our Bhagwan by calling him as Lord.
You're going to take it or you want me to take it?
You can take two.
No, if you were ready to take it, I don't want to interrupt you. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, this is a very interesting question. Actually, Lord is the word that we use as master, and I mean, English is a funny language where you don't have much of words which you can use for spiritual subjects. Whereas in Sanskrit you have 265 alphabets, and in English we have only one alphabet, and that alphabet is A to Z. But in Sanskrit you have 256. So you can imagine the kind of varieties that we have in terms of your vocabulary. So unfortunately, in English, we have only this word for master. We can use as master, but if we can use Ishvara or use some
Bhagavan.
Sanskrit jargons, Bhagwan, Sanskrit jargons here, then why not? But since many people will not understand, that's why we have to use the word Lord.
Ultimately, he is the Lord of all lords.
Yeah, Deva Dev.
Thank you all. I think 9th chapter is most confidential knowledge, most important. It's going to be so much more beautiful as we progress with the 10th chapter, 12, 13, 14. Wow. And so please stay on, invite others, please join up, and let's all together hold hands and serve the Lord very well. Anything else, Jagoan? Harinam? Yes, please.
Yeah, as many questions we couldn't answer. Like always, we will be answering these questions on our website.
Thank you, Shivala Prabhu, for the wonderful session. And also we had various good questions. As Harina mentioned, we will post in our website. And also we have posted 4 quizzes so far. I think most of you have tried it. And if you have not, please try it. And we will have each session, one quiz for each session, and it will be posted in later stages. And also we have published answer for the first 2 days of our question and answers. So balance will be posted soon. Thank you very much. And tomorrow again is an interesting chapter, the opulence of the Lord. Please join us with. Please inform this to your friends, relatives. Okay. Thank you very much. Till we will meet you at tomorrow 7:30. Till then, stay safe. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I see a lot of faces who are very regular. I think in the future sessions, we should have everybody switching on their videos. And we're going to very specially reach out when we see some people who are there seeing, watching, taking notes. What a bhakti yogi you are, or yogini you are. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.